Reconnecting with Daddy, stories from my life. Grandma's porch. Sit down, relax, enjoy. Here on Grandma's porch. Reconnecting with Daddy. Reconnecting with Daddy. Hello, y'all. I'm Dianna Brianne. Stories from my life. I don't give advice, information, recommendations. I just share with you my perspective on different topics, as is with this one. Well, reconnecting with Daddy. You know, my mom and Daddy got a divorce, and when I was about 4 years old, and we moved into another little town, and then Daddy would come back and forth and visit, and I would go stay with him, and I loved being with Daddy. I used to chase his truck whenever he would leave from dropping me off, and I would cry and I would miss him because I missed my mom and dad being together. But Daddy and Mom got a divorce, and Daddy went on, and he moved into like a little travel trailer type of situation for a while. Then he became involved with a woman who eventually he married. The first wife after my mom. He later married another woman, and she was absolutely amazing and wonderful. The first wife was very challenging and difficult in my life. I don't think she particularly was fond of me, and she pretty much broke off that relationship with Daddy and me at that point when I was about 6 years old. He quit seeing me, and it was a choice between his new wife and me. She was later, I guess, having her hair done in a beauty salon and had a heart attack while she was at the beauty salon, and that was it. He later married one of her best friends, and he was to marry the best friend, and she was, really, really wonderful in my life. But that wasn't until much later, because I really didn't reconnect with Daddy until I was probably about 17. And right before I left home, and then I reconnected with him, and we began over the years after that to build a very good, solid relationship. It's not what it would have been, but it's like I say, it's better to start late than never. And we did. We built a solid relationship until he passed when he was about in his 80s, and he passed of a stroke. Came home from the dollar store and sat down in a chair and passed on. And I stayed relatively close by telephone with his wife, and she was very nice. But when Mom and Daddy went through a divorce, it was very difficult because I didn't really understand the circumstances. And it turned out to be that Daddy was my legal father, but he really wasn't my biological father. I was the product of an affair that my mother was having, because I guess Daddy was having a bunch of affairs, and then, my mom got tired of it, and I was the product of the affair. But that man loved my mother and wanted to marry my mother, but my mother ultimately chose not to marry him. And then later down the line, that man married someone else. But I used to go visit him at his work, and he'd come out to the car and always give me like a bag of change and maybe candy. And I always liked that man, but I never really knew that he was my biological father until many, many, many years later. But at the same time, I was disconnected from Daddy now, my only father that I knew and that I loved. And then later, my mother would remarry the town drunk, as we called him, and that was a short-lived marriage, which was not good for me at all in any sense, and I've talked about that. And then later, she would marry the pillar of the community, a great man who was my stepfather throughout my teenage years, and he was amazing and wonderful and a fantastic stepfather. And then I were to reconnect with my daddy, my legal father, which, you know, was always my daddy, and continue to build a great relationship with him. With my biological father, I never got to reconnect, because when I finally got in contact with him years later, well, I sent him a letter, but he went, and I was living in Europe, and apparently he died of a stroke, I believe, a stroke. And so I never really got to reconnect with him. But I had, you know, these fathers, and, you know, divorce is very traumatic for a child. And I think people need to think long and hard before they get a divorce, if they're going to get one. And then they need to have it structured in a way, if at all possible, that the child gets the least amount of impact from it, the negative impact. And it was very traumatic for me, you know, because I remember the time that daddy didn't show up when I was sick, and he was supposed to show up. I was running a temperature, and he didn't show up. His wife apparently told him not to. And that one wife, this first wife, that didn't like me, she would come down and she would, you know, carry on with my mom and yell at my mom and scream at my mom, and it would scare me so bad. And so she wasn't, you know, she wasn't a nice part of my life. You know, I hold no ill feelings towards anybody. You know, she probably had her own struggles and her own reasons, and maybe she felt threatened by his previous family. I don't know. But it did, you know, daddy did exit my life for a number of years, and then I was able to reconnect with him when I was about 17, and we did build a very solid and meaningful relationship after that. And so, you know, he was my legal dad, but he was really my daddy. He was my daddy. And then my stepfather was really a great father. And then the drunk, well, you know, whatever his circumstances were, I know his life was not easy, and prior to that. And so, you know, I wish everyone wonderful and wish everyone well. And yet that was my childhood of fathers and reconnecting with my daddy. So I hope you like, share, subscribe to all 5 of my channels. Links pinned to the top of the comment section below. If you connect with me, I will likely connect with you as well. Hope to talk to you then. May God bless you. Bye-bye. Porch, a place to relax and a place to enjoy.